Hi, and welcome to the Seafood Business Accelerator Innovation Plan Canvas webinar. I'm Deborah Hellbeck, your host, and with me today is Greg McLaren. As you know from watching previous webinars, the goal of the Seafood Business Accelerator is to help you capture more value for your harvest. This is webinar 8 from a 10-part series, or in a 10-part series, and today Greg is going to focus on marketing. As many of you know, marketing is a huge category. We're going to focus in on different aspects of marketing as they relate to your innovation plan canvas. Greg, how about we start with an introduction? Who's Greg?
Well, first off, a friend of Deborah, which we're going to talk about this in just a little bit. So Greg McLaren, not sure if we mentioned, have a company called Farm Food Drink. And so we have the good fortune of working with folks that produce food and beverages across the country, actually. And Deborah, through our work with you, we've done work previous to this in the seafood sector and spent time with fishers. But through the Seafood Business Accelerator, we got to amp that up. I'm super excited with that. But for me specifically, I've been in business development, business management, and marketing for probably more years than I'm comfortable to say here, but let's say it's plus 30. And the marketing side of things has always been something that's always been connected with what I've done, even actually as a late teenager and when I developed some new businesses with friends in those days. And so it's kind of the fabric of who I am and how I do things. I like to think I'm a strategic thinker, but basically our role is to help food businesses be sustainable and to market effectively to their target audience. And so that's maybe the most relevant thing to our audience here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you introduce us as friends, which indeed we are friends. It didn't start that way, though. I mean, I don't think we were ever enemies, but no. Greg and I actually started out as competitors. And through the years, we've come to be friends, and I've actually worked for Greg and with Greg quite a few times on some really fantastic projects. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and I think that's, as we've talked about, you and I, a lot of times, is that I think we both recognize that we were supporting and doing things like this with food processors and both doing it and realized that we were on a similar mission we were trying to do something good, or so we think. And by collaborating and supporting each other, that's a positive thing. And that applies to every sector. Collaboration is really where it's at, especially for small scale seafood sector, where working with others, and yes, you're competing for the same dollars, but you can work together and grow together and do more together with a smaller budget. And that's kind of what you have to do nowadays, or so I see it.
Yeah. And along with collaboration and smaller budgets is the importance of planning. And that's why we're here today, right? So we're here to talk about planning and how companies, entrepreneurs, community members can move forward with their plan to capture more value for their harvests. And with that, I think what we might just do is move right into your presentation on the marketing aspect of your innovation plan.
Yeah, so first off, I love the premise of this. So when we go into it, we're talking about the innovation plan canvas. The whole idea of a plan canvas, which is based on a business model canvas, is really to break down into one page the core of what your business is and what it should do. So the simplicity, I love that. And from working with businesses for a lot of years, most of us are looking for what we call the one pager. What is that thing that can frame what we're doing? And that's what this does. And we hear so much about innovation, and what Deborah and what you've done and your team has done is come up with something. So what's the project? what is the focus? So we see that in here and the market research, and I'm not going to read everything the folks can see on the screen. But when we talk about marketing activities today, how does that connect or work with everything else on that one page? So at the end of the day, if I go through each one of these categories, I'm doing a pretty good job of framing and planning my business, but maybe most importantly, acting on it.
Yeah.
So I've been in planning for an awfully long time, made a living where people pay us to plan. But at the end of the day, the stuff that makes you money is the actions. So it's, you can plan all you want, but what do you do with it? And so this is really the beauty of this, and the beauty of the Seafood Business Accelerator is it takes people into action. That's what I get out of this.
Excellent. I'm glad I let you lead that. Great.
If I go further in the marketing objectives, and on this slide, it's saying that marketing is beyond sales. And I can read all these things, and these are all elements that are important to either driving sales or marketing. But the first thing that I really want to say is sales is actually a piece of marketing, not the otherwise. So we're working from a foundation of marketing. Sales is a critical part of it. And the reality that all of us should keep in mind when we're talking about sales is the only thing we do that actually makes us money. Everything else is a cost, including harvesting. So you might be producing that product, but at the end of the day, how well am I selling it and working on it? It's a really important thing for folks to know. And what marketing does is it should make you more effective at selling, because you're working from a foundation of clearly understanding what, and we'll talk about this, what your value proposition is, and a better understanding of who you're looking to have a relationship with. Because at the end of the day, you want a relationship. What are the activities you take along that path to have a strong relationship that is prosperous for both parties? That's really what we're talking about. So when we talk about marketing objectives, what are the key things that I will do with my seafood business that will drive business, that will bring business to me or attract it and have it come back again? So think about that with your objectives, or that's what we want folks that go through this program to really think about. What are the things that I need to do that are going to evolve the business to the vision that I'm looking to attain? When we talk about marketing activities, we're talking about actions. What are these things that we need to do along the path that are going to lead to sales? And because it's more than sales, we have to think about, how do we want to be understood out there in the marketplace? And what's kind of cool, and I'll say it now, is that I've worked in a lot of different sectors, and marketing and branding different in other sectors, banking, accounting, these kind of things. They aren't the sexiest thing in the world. Seafood is fun. Seafood represents British Columbia. It represents the fabric of who we are. It feeds me. It has flavor. There's so much to say. So it's such a wonderful thing to follow through on this. So positioning this is so important. So it's more of just what will drive sales, but what are these activities that will grow my business? And that's really what's on this slide. Why do I want to market? Because I want to build an audience. And then I want that audience to have a relationship with my business. And then I want them to buy stuff. And that's marketing. So that's why you market. How can I get folks to better understand us, to choose seafood or shellfish or whatever it is over another protein, or choose my food product, seafood product, over another?
Yeah, I want to just ask you something. So in terms of sales or selling stuff, how does this equate to if I'm in a situation, I'm in a community and I want to increase the distribution of my seafood to other members of my community, but not necessarily sell it. How does marketing relate to that? Like, is it same principles?
Yes and no. If you're looking to communicate value, if you're looking to whatever it is that you're doing, there needs to be clarity of communication. You need to understand what folks are looking for, what benefits they want.
Okay.
When I market, I want to choose and explain those benefits in the way that it's understood. And the reality is, many times we will promote the wrong stuff. And if you're talking to a community, it's the same thing. Is that, are you explaining the value or the benefits in using the wording, language, terminology that your audience uses? Mm-hmm. And that's about connection. I always use this example, but when we talk about branding, if I am talking to a 10-year-old niece of mine, or I'm having a conversation with a good friend of mine, same age, or I'm talking with an elder, my conversation is different.
Right.
The topics I choose to talk about are different, but I'm the same person, and that's branding. Yeah. Using it, it's retaining the fabric of who you are, but choosing words and communication style, and that marketing communication, it changes. And that's what we want to understand when we're talking to a community, or we're talking to somebody, will you be buying this product from me?
Yes, good.
So this is a slide that I've used for years, and that's tried to, as you said, Deborah, marketing is a very comprehensive area. And marketing is everything from the very concept of your business or product all the way until you get it into the customer's hands, and then the loyalty or support you're looking for to get them back again. Mm-hmm. So it's really everything. So it affects why you got into this business. It affects the product choices you make, and it affects all of these things. So there's a lot of things on that journey, but at the end of the day, if you want to be effective in marketing, how well do you understand your target market, like we have here on the slide? And do you understand your brand position or personality or your value proposition? Is there clarity? So I can have a connection. And if you've ever had a conversation with somebody and you're both talking and explaining, but you're not really connecting, that's bad marketing. And it happens a whole lot. So you're looking to have a connection and a relationship. And if I figure out who my target audience is and what my brand position is, you've got a competitive edge, because there's a whole lot of folks who don't. And if you have clarity there, that's going to drive you on some of the activities we're talking about. So what's my prices going to be is affected by that. What products I offer or any value added, how I promote it, what channels I go through. So what social media channels or not? Am I just going traditional? We'll talk about that. And how do I get that product to them? What place or location or distribution, how do I get that product to them? At the end of the day, if the folks we're talking to, if I understand who my customers are and what they're looking for from my product, and I understand our brand position or the personality or the inflections we want to put out there, that's winning marketing. That's where things really start happening. So through all of this, and I won't go through all the details, and I know you brought my colleague on here, and that's who talked about market research, Salit, who's phenomenal, by the way. He works on a lot of these elements, but we want to research and analyze our competition, our customers. Context is kind of, where is that product going to market and how am I competing against it? Who can I collaborate with? And what we talked about at the start, Deborah, I think is so important, because when I started off, because I've been doing this so long, we looked at competition and it was, you didn't share, and it was quite aggressive. collaboration almost didn't exist. And then as the world has evolved, and social media is part of that, and digital, and as we've learned in small scale food, you almost have to collaborate. And guess what? You bring more value. So who are the folks you can collaborate with, and who's on that winning plan with you? Yeah. And that could be who you're distributing with, what online. Skipper Auto is a great example of collaboration, a phenomenal example, actually. And these are the things we want to analyze. Where's that in the business? What strategy? Segmentation is just another word of saying describe the target audience, or who's your target market, who's your customers. Yeah. Value proposition, we'll talk about that in just a minute, and that's how you define value. We'll talk about that in a minute. And that leads to how you want to be understood, or positioning in the marketplace. And then maybe most important for what we're talking about today is, how am I going to act on that? What strategies and what actions I take? So when we understand value, we want to understand as a business, my company, what value can we provide? And when you're in seafood sectors, like anything else, you are a business. This is a business entity, a company. What is it that we can provide value with? Who are our customers? We need to understand what they look for. I've talked about that. What's the competition offering? What are they doing? Is there a gap in there that maybe we can slide in? Maybe it doesn't change your product. It just changes the way you communicate it. And then in what context? So again, that's kind of personality, how, as you were saying, Deborah, that if we're talking in a community and we use the same language, and these are friends and families we have in there, that has context. So we're going to be a little bit more casual in the wording we use. And who can I collaborate with? The value proposition, and this is something that is readily available to anybody. You do a search of value proposition. There's tons of information out there, but it's basically an easy way is, what I'm your customer. What are you providing to me? What's the value? So what do you bring to me? So how would you define or describe your product or your business and how it might provide value to me? And positioning is really how you communicate that. What words you choose, what images, these kind of things. What is the value of your brand to your customer? So all of that, and this is a great, terrific graphic. The market segmentation plus value proposition equals positioning. So it's a real simple way of understanding. And these are all fancy words, but at the end of the day, how do I want people to understand my product? So the marketing mix is, so as I mentioned before, and you'll see this as the 4 Ps, and there's actually, I think there's 17 or more Ps out there, like perception or whatever, but the basic 4 are the ones we already showed, which is product, price, promotion, and place. And place is just another word for distribution, or where is the location of your business, or where can I get your product? How does that deliver value? And the marketing strategy or the plan is, what approach will I take? How am I going to connect? Not just a bunch of actions, but why will this work? Why will this connect? If I'm marketing to Deborah, why will Deborah respond to it? Or how will I connect? Why am I making those choices? By the way, things like budget affect your strategy. So you might be a lot of things we wish we could do, but if budget limits you, maybe you're going full on social media because you can do that yourself, because it's actually more authentic when it comes from you.
Right.
So implementation is actions, getting it done. And so this is an example of marketing channels. And this is really important because we've talked about the target audience you have. So you might, or let's say I might like Facebook. I don't actually love Facebook that much, but let's say I do. But if my target audience isn't on there, why am I using that channel? You want to use the marketing channels of where your customers are. There's traditional, And the reality in some of our rural communities and some of the Gulf Islands up there, there's a lot of folks that still respond to some of the traditional media. Facebook, if we look at social media, tends to be an older demographic, but in some of the smaller rural communities, it's a lifeblood. It's a connection.
It's very popular.
And I've been in some of these small communities, so it's a little bit different than what you might read or understand from experts. So it's really understanding where people learn about your kind of product, where they are, and what's the best vessel for using it to carry that communication. And then thinking about budget or time. What's the best effective use of your time? Because these things actually matter. Farmers markets, events, in-store promos, all of these things are really important, but they're choices. Yeah. And you can't do everything. So this is where you're being strategic. What can I do? What's the best use of my time? And what's most likely going to give me a return on that investment of time and or money? And so digital media and social media, as I mentioned before, there's lots going on. It is something that is ever changing. I've been doing this a long time. That marketing is actually more interesting than it's ever been, but it's also more volatile. There's changes. We just, with the recent changes with Twitter, now X, that's changing how that is understood in the marketplace. So really, it's understanding where your customers are and what's really, I'm looking for my phone, but what's really interesting is that there's less and less use by people on computers, laptops, and more people are using, even business, a smartphone. So is your customer there? Yeah. So if they are, then how you deliver your messages has to keep that in mind. That's another reason for less is more. So think about how you use digital marketing, social media, the visibility, credibility. It builds brand, but it's also connecting with that audience. And you might out and out develop a relationship with them. You're looking for and back and forth. And that's where social media and digital marketing is different than the old traditional, which was just outgoing. This is actually developing a relationship, more work, higher return, and helps small seafood businesses compete against the big guys. They wish they could do this. Right. What I think is really important to acknowledge and understand, not all of us are good at it. And you might solicit help with others, but sometimes you can be good. But the reality is, more times than not, most experts in social media and who operate in that world, the authenticity of the owner of the operation doing it themselves comes off better. Yeah. However, you need to ask yourself a question. Am I good at this? Is this an effective use of my time? Or could I guide or work with somebody else? And maybe it's not quite as good because it's not from me, but maybe I can get more stuff done by someone else working with. So this is another reason to collaborate. And it's another reason to collaborate with other brands who maybe are very strong on that. And I've mentioned them already, but for example, Skipper Auto and the different leads, they are very strong on social media. They have a strong following. And so tapping into others that are already there, have an audience, is a good thing.
Greg, I guess you've mentioned Skipper Auto, great company. We also have, there's also local, I'm going to call them aggregators, but groups that bring products together, local products that seafood harvesters could tap into. Yeah. And I'm thinking about, I think it's Tofino or is it Ucluelet? Not necessarily saying that that you have to go there or anything, but to look into these different places. There's what's the one out of Cowichan called?
Cowok.
Cowok, right? Cowok. I know in Victoria, we've got is it called the Farm Hub?
South Island Farm Hub.
Yeah, so and there are many others in the province as well. So looking into these places, like some people often want to order a bunch of stuff instead of just the product that you distribute. So it may be worth looking into some of these other options, just ideas.
100%, and you're right. And I've mentioned Skipper Auto a couple of times just because they're somewhat of a leader out here in Western Canada on how to do it.
Yeah.
But that said, there's different community organizations, and I've met a couple of them through this program and through you, Deborah, folks that are starting up programs. So First Nations led different programs in different smaller communities that are looking to start up this kind of thing or are doing it, that will really, I hope, or I know they have a strong following already. So who has that following with your target audience? Who's in there? And looking for others that are well understood and recognized, that are doing some of the work for you. And sometimes there's great benefit in your marketing to tap into somebody else that's already doing it well and has the audience.
Yeah. And we're on the digital marketing slide. All of these are using digital tools to get their information out. They've got online stores, they've got online platforms where they connect harvesters, sellers with buyers, or distributors with potential buyers. And I'll just put another shout out for Sonia from Skipper Autos. She's involved. There's actually quite a group of us involved in a new undertaking called Local Catch Canada. It's just in its infancy right now, but it's something to watch. And the whole premise behind that organization will be to match harvesters, independent harvesters, with consumers. So that's something coming to Canada.
And yes, I'm watching.
Good.
I'm really interested with what's going on that. And it's interesting we're talking about this because my partner in life, Juanita, we're big seafood eaters. And it's part of what we want to talk about, how you provide value. But seafood and getting good, fresh, local seafood or fresh frozen and having something local, there's a higher cost to it. However, we understand the value of that and what the value is to this household. And my point is that though I'm in this world, Juanita tracks several Facebook providers that we know, several boats moving around the coastal area. And when they come, and I'm based here in Nanaimo, we look for them and, there's tuna coming and there's spot prawn or there's whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And we look for it. We've also looked for it because these particular boats have provided value, or how we perceive value, in their ethical and environmental beliefs. So that really is important to understand, because value is understood differently according to the target audience. So how are you providing value on that? And speaking of that, that's kind of what this slide speaks to a little bit. And if I was to redo this slide again, I might add a fifth box on the side of here, just add an ED and put connected. So we're looking to attract, connect. So you're actually you're moving back and forth with that information. You've engaged, and then you get folks excited. Oh, look at this provider of seafood that I want, and look at the values. Their values are in line with mine. They provide me value with the type of product they're supplying, or their value added, or how they turn some of the waste into a product that I might like. That there's innovation. And then I get connected, and then I'm loyal. And I stick with it because I'm too busy to look for someone new. So being connected is important. So as we move from prospect to visitor to a strong lead, and then they become customer, we also want to, through promotions, we want to retain loyalty. And loyalty, a lot of times, aligns itself with value and how I understand service. And I'm just going to say this before, as we segue out of a couple of slides back into some actions, is just remember, when we talk marketing, and customer service is part of marketing, but that's a big word that people throw around. Customer service, it's how it's understood by the customer and it's understood by the sector. So if I go into some not certain types of businesses, I rate customer service by how quickly I can get in and out. In other cases, it's a friendly face. In other cases, it's their follow-up to my questions. And in the seafood sector, it's important for us to understand what people value, because you might be thinking you're offering great customer service, but you might be offering me stuff that I place no value on. And you might be marketing something that doesn't matter. It's really important. This is all part of the marketing equation. Understand what value is. So to really wrap this up, we've talked about marketing, how we get here. The key is these actions. And as this slide, what we have here, what are the different activities or actions I might take to get me on my journey to have a connection with my target audience or the target customer? So we've talked about figuring out who they are, whatever, what channels they're on, thinking about based on my personality, do I use casual language? Do I use more formal? Do I use a lot of images because I'm on Instagram and that's really images? Do I do videos because you're catching fish out of the water or it's shellfish? I'm really interested in what you're doing. Maybe I need videos. So these are all part of the activities. And those are the kind of things you might think about in there. Here we've got an example of the value proposition. And then the activity here is direct sales via online store. And then there's going to be activities below that. Right. Check copy, do this, images. Do I want photos? These kind of things. So list all the activities. So think about who I'm targeting, how I'm going to do it, what's the personality I'm going to apply. If I do all these things, and what channel I'm on, so is it Instagram, for example, then you're going to just find that these activities kind of almost write themselves, that you can figure out what they are.
Like we've talked with the other webinars as well, right? I mean, the marketing activities box, you can start out with what you think you're going to do based on the first things that you're thinking about. These are the activities that I'm going to undertake. And then you distill it as you go on, right? And that's the beauty of having it on a computer or digital, that you can make a copy and you start out with this, and then you make another copy and you refine it and you make it more detailed and more smart. That was something that Brady talked about in our first webinar.
I saw that.
We want to have SMART goals, like things that are specific. So this is, what I'm going to do, and they're measurable, and that you can go back and you can evaluate that you've actually got it done.
100%. And I'll say two things to that. One is that if some folks, digital, as you say, you can make these changes as you go. But if you're a little bit old school like me, I keep dating myself on this, that I'll have a printed copy and I'll just cross off things in pencil and then refine the digital later. Because boy, what Deborah said really was smart. I like that. I'm going to write that down, cross that off, and you reflect on that. What Brady said, in my world, in marketing, there is probably more discussion on how you track things, and then how that adapts what you're doing in marketing. So Brady is so on point there. Track what you have, these activities, make them SMART goals. He's covered that. So if you folks haven't seen that, go back to what Brady and Deborah's event on that. But what I'll tell you, as a guy that's been marketing an awfully long time, I can tell you most of the best campaigns that have ever happened came out of the adaptions that were made to them. They weren't great campaigns from the get-go. Yeah. They tracked it, and then they went, oh, that's not really working. I'm going to make an adaptation here. They adapt it, and that's where the magic happens. It's amazing how that is. So it's another reason why write down these things, and you're never always right. I've never seen a perfect marketing plan. You adapt it as you go. And that's where marketing activities really work for you.
I'm giggling away here, Greg, because it's the same for us, right? I mean, as service providers, people who've helped people over the years. Well, I don't know, between Greg and I, we've probably done what, 5, 6, 7 of these accelerator type programs.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is an adaptation of all of those, right? And they get
100%.
better every time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Compromise and adaption are not bad words. They're good things.
Yeah.
And it's as long as you're on that journey, and really at the end of the day, are like we try to do, are you listening to your audience? And you're adapting to what the audience tells you because you want a relationship. Because if you don't, they'll stop talking to you, meaning they'll buy from somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So finally, just these are kind of next steps. It really brings it back to why I'm a fan of this innovation plan. This business model canvas is another name for it. But the innovation plan, what we have on here is you keep working on it because it's something that gives you focus on one page. Work on these marketing activities, track them, adapt, and shift as you need to. This is the one thing that you have a competitive advantage over the big companies. When you actually do your marketing activities and adapt. And then watch the rest of the webinars so you can see more of Deborah's smiling face, and then revisit your marketing activities.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, that was great. I just, as you're talking, and we mentioned Brady, and we mentioned Salik, I mentioned Stacy earlier when we talked to you before. Like, there's hundreds of years experience behind what we're showing you. Actually, there's a lot of experience here, and so I hope that people are finding value in it. I want to close by just having you comment, Greg. If a client would come to you, and it's very conceivable that somebody from the seafood sector would come to you as your company and ask for help, and they would come with an innovation plan canvas that's completed, what would you think?
Well, first off, it tells me they're prepared, and it's actually a really good point because there's this stuff that Deborah and I've done together on business development and accelerators. And then there's the marketing agency side that Farm Food Drink offers. Because we're in the small scale world, we want this to be clients. We want it to be their own work, but also we know their budget is tight. Mm-hmm. So by doing this, it puts focus and clarity to anyone that, whether it's a marketing agency or a graphic designer or someone offering marketing support in whatever area, it gives clarity of direction, who your audience is, who you are, what your personality is, what goals, what kind of budgets you have. It basically gives us the rules of the road and something so you can focus on the more detailed stuff and work that through. So quite honestly, we love stuff like this. And I don't know anyone in our world who doesn't. It means that the client's prepared to do the work with us.
Yeah, I think that's we've heard the same. It's said in different ways, but it will really help.
Clarity of direction, like in branding, there's the 3 C's. Clarity, consistency, and constancy. So consistently putting out that brand message, constantly putting it out. But clarity is the key. Have I been clear with the benefits I offer? And an innovation plan, are you clear with the business direction? And this will help you get there.
Thanks, Greg. Fantastic. Nice seeing you again.
Good seeing you. Thank you.